What's up, everybody? It's your boy JR Lee, and I'm back for another special episode. This is episode 60. Man, I can't believe I made it to episode 60, and I'm joined by the powerful and the beautiful queen, Akanundrum. And a conundrum for the people who don't know who you are and what it is that you do. Can you please tell us a little about yourself, please?
Sure. So my name is Akanundrum. I'm known as Akanundrum Online. My name is Alquincia Selolwane, and I am a serial entrepreneur. And my focus currently is on virtual spaces. So I am now a virtual commercial property developer, owner and developer of the Black Virtual Mall. And I'm also an app developer, and I have a company called First Generation Apps as well, which are my two hyper focuses besides selling very easy and applicable solutions for entrepreneurs in the space of e-courses.
Absolutely. And well, thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And so when you say serial entrepreneur, for those who don't know exactly what a serial entrepreneur is, what exactly is that in your own words?
Well, serial entrepreneur, very different from, say, a business owner or the concept of a business owner. Typically, the way I view it is that business owners really kind of play in their lane. So, for example, if you are a restaurateur, that would be the space in which you would probably thrive in business. So you'd open a restaurant or maybe mobile food truck or something like that. So you kind of play in your lane. Whereas serial entrepreneurs, we're not really tethered to one particular discipline or industry. We will really go where the opportunity is. So we take advantage of really need, necessity, time, conditions, and we really will just provide solutions that are trending or happening, or spaces that we can actually lend something to. So we'll go from industry to industry. We're not really focused on one particular product or industry or service.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And how long have you been an entrepreneur, and how exactly did you get started in entrepreneurship?
Well, I'd say on record, I started my LLC in 2014, I believe, 2013. So definitely since the very first, I would say, like, structured sort of a hustle was 2014, which I created a hair product called Lock Therapy. And it was a solution that I had created for myself for my locks. And I started to formulate that and sell that. So that was like the first thing. And most of the things that I did, which is something that a lot of entrepreneurs end up doing, is we'll have maybe a focus or a main business that we are really wanting in our passion product that we're really trying to do. Right. And usually we know that that's going to take a little bit of time, that's going to take a little bit of money. And so we wind up creating hustles or things that can provide us with seed money to either fund that passion product or keep the bills on, paid while.
Absolutely.
Yes. Exactly.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And so virtual spaces, I know that you said you are a virtual commercial property developer. Is that,
yes.
I'm saying, okay, so what exactly does that mean?
Well, just like we have a commercial property developer in real life. So that's a person who develops properties for commercial usage. So you'll typically think retail space and that. So it's not residential space. And virtual is just that same thing, but it's a virtual space. So it's a space that is utilized for retail commercial usage in the virtual world or online or digital, more so, of course, than your typical brick and mortar.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And so, well, man, the world we're in 2021 right now, and the world is definitely changing. The world is definitely advancing. We have, we're going digital. We have AI. We have virtual reality. We are, the world is slowly getting, conforming to cryptocurrency. How important is like moving into the digital world, and where do you see the world going in the future?
Well, we've seen I would say the pandemic has definitely kind of brought a new awareness in terms of our vulnerabilities in the physical world as merchants or sellers or retailers. And
Absolutely.
so e-commerce, we're all used to, we're all familiar with it. It's not new anymore. But
Absolutely.
when you analyze your SWOT as a business, which is your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats, I think a lot of businesses were forced to reconcile with the fact that existing just primarily in a physical capacity is and can be a vulnerability. It can be one of your weaknesses. And so there's a lot of businesses, of course, that are closed, that are shuttered. We're having that they've named retail apocalypse, where you can go and see all of these stores that are shuttered, closed, buildings that are for lease, for lease, for lease. Just they even have a new term for the malls that are experiencing this, and it's called Mallmageddon, where by 2025, we're anticipated to have only 25% of the malls that we had physical spaces.
I
And
didn't even
so,
know people still go to the mall.
right. And the very thing that brought the malls about is actually the very same thing that's sort of killing them, which is convenience. So when the
Mm.
malls started during the 50s, the concept was putting all of these amazing and unique businesses and needed services under one umbrella. And the convenience was that everyone could come and shop and, do all of your shopping in one location, which of course was breathtaking and brilliant at its time. But then now, as e-commerce has introduced us to a new level of convenience, which is shopping from home, people just don't want to walk the 20, 40, 50,000 square foot space for a few things anymore. So the mall is not providing that same social communal aspect that drove us there, which is typically the teen audience. So as people get older, we found a new convenient method of shopping right from your home and then having the things brought to you. So the same convenience aspect that made the mall great, it's actually killing them all, because they haven't pivoted to that level of utilizing e-commerce. And that's what I've done differently with the virtual mall,
Right.
is provide you that same convenience factor that the mall did in a physical realm, but doing it online. And so the differentiator is there's a lot of directories. We have other platforms that do house a lot of different stores and brands. But what I'm doing differently is providing a graphic user interface that feels more familiar, because although we're moving digital, we're still human, and we still like things that feel like something that we know and feel comfortable. And so with the virtual mall, sorry if my ear goes off in just a second, with
Nice.
my mall, it's aesthetically pleasing. So it's not just the digital interface where there's some brands and just hyperlinks and some products. It has a more of an experience feel to it, and it looks like the mall that you're used to.
Absolutely, it's definitely an experience. I actually went through it with my girlfriend. I was like, wow, this is actually really dope. And so, you know, with the pandemic and with the rise of everything like that, the original idea for the Black Virtual Mall, how long when did you actually receive this concept? When it was like, you know what, I see this problem, I want to move forward with this, I want to put this into action. Like, I'm pretty sure this happened before the pandemic. When exactly when did you start working on this idea?
Well, actually, no, it wasn't before the pandemic.
Oh,
So with the pandemic,
okay.
before the pandemic, I, like a lot of people, were on this, I was doing a speaker circuit, so I was
Mm.
speaking, attending events. It was like 2019, I would say, was a very a year of growth in terms of events for Black entrepreneurs, speaking engagements, things of that nature. And so when the shutdown hit, a lot of corporations and event sponsors and hosts pivoted to virtual spaces. And
Right.
so I was fortunate enough to attend a platform dedicated to subscription-based businesses,
Mm.
just bit more information on that. And the user interface that they had was something like unlike anything that I had ever seen. And so I immediately started to research the company that they utilize, and then introduce myself to other companies that also created those similar spaces. And so I spent some time researching, about a week, really kind of getting into what my options were, getting familiar with the spaces, the language, to understand what it is that I would be venturing into. And so I saw it as just that light bulb moment of saying, wow, this is amazing. This is definitely where we're heading. I like the aesthetics of the platform, in the sense that, no, I'm not a stranger to virtual reality. You know, we've seen this, we've seen these virtual worlds, the things like The Sims. We've seen the really intricate ones where you are like navigating into the space. You have a character that you have to kind of dress and learn to walk. So we've seen this, you know, any kids growing up in the video game era. So we've seen that for quite some time. But to see it being utilized for an event, which this event was a weekend event, was something that was new. And one of the things that I did like was the ease of use. So you don't have to have any special Oculus glasses, or you don't have to learn to control an avatar or dress it. It's very intuitive. You get that feel, that Sims kind of environment from the little characters walking around, but you can just jump right on and engage and do what you need to do. So I like that ease, you know, so it gives you the feel without all of the extra legwork that would be cool for a second, but I think it's trivial after a while, right? That every time you have to like get these glasses or move this character just to go shopping. So I saw that platform, and my first experience with it was I created the Black Biz Expo last year in February. And most of these events take about 3 to 9 months to build out. And my team and myself, we built it out in 6 weeks. And we launched the Expo. Right. Now, financially, I did take a hit on that, to be very transparent. It was about $40,000 cost to
Throwing events is not cheap.
No, and virtual events, they have their pros and cons, but they're also, for this type of event, it can get really costly. The average spend with the company that I use is actually like $150,000 for a weekend. And so, but the reach is far greater as well, right? If you can have only people in the location, you can get people from all over the world. So I didn't, of course, have time to market the event in the speed of which we were executing it. But I knew inherently it was really, really important to understand it, to learn it, to get behind the dashboard for it. So I took that risk and said, you know, I'm going to learn it and I'll figure out how to make it profitable. So initially I was going to launch part 2 of the Black Biz Expo in June, for the Juneteenth month. And I ended up pivoting, because this idea was actually going to be, the mall was going to be launched in December, around Christmas, for the holidays, around November or December. And then I talked to someone that I greatly respect, and I was telling him about the idea. He said, no, you have to go with that now. Like, don't wait, and you have to go with it now. And so that's really why it wound up being a little bit more expedited and pushed now versus December.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's amazing. And so, you know, this is more than just a mall, right? This is a mall for Black-owned businesses. And, you know, we're in a time right now where, you know, people are pushing ownership, right? And empowerment. How important is, you know, economic empowerment, especially in the Black culture?
Well, for us, we lag significantly behind when it comes to economic power in America, for a variety of historical reasons. And we also lack the capital and the experience that lends to success. So I think that e-commerce is one of the playing field levelers.
Absolutely.
So it's quite expensive, to get into a brick and mortar concept retail store.
Absolutely.
There's a lot that goes with that. Whereas e-commerce, the barriers of entry are just not there. This is something you can literally create a shop in one day and be up and running for
Absolutely.
taking orders. And so I think that it's something that we really have to capitalize off of, because it's that one key opportunity for us to enter into the marketplace and become competitive. And so because of that, since this is really for me our entry and our way in, it's something that we have to really understand in great depth and really take advantage of. And
Absolutely.
so now what we've understood also with the pandemic and the lockdown is that a lot of people moved into e-commerce last year. That was one of the greatest years of explosion for e-commerce, because largely you had people who never felt job insecurity that were at home for the first time, questioning, if we're going to have a job, questioning their security at their job. You had people who were shuttered for their physical locations that they primarily depended on, that had to really focus on their e-commerce. And so it's become oversaturated. It's really now far more competitive from last year than it ever was. And
100%.
so we have to look at what differentiators and what ways are we going to now stand out in this new crowded space, especially since this is the space that we must utilize. And so that's why me seeing that space and knowing the future of e-commerce and knowing that you're going to need something to stand out as a differentiator and really kind of drilling down into that, I said, I have to get in the forefront of this and I have to bring us into it. And so that's why for me, addressing the 40% of Black owned businesses that were closed permanently from the shutdown, addressing the 80% of Black owned businesses that closed 18 months after opening, trying to just, fill in some of the gaps. I thought that our group, our segment requires the help and the focus and the attention, especially if we're doing something that's moving us and progressing us into the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100% agree. And so, as a business owner, how can I get involved with the Black Virtual Mall? Say I have a product-based business. How can is it limited to product-based business, or can you have a service as well? How can I get involved? How can I be a merchant involved in the space?
Well, it's really simple to join. You can join at the blackvirtualmall.com directly at the mall. The very first option on the navigation is apply. So you can click that link there. There's a link in the bio at the Black Virtual Mall's Instagram page. There's a link in the bio at my Instagram page, Akanundrum. So it's very simple to join and apply. We are heavy on product focus, but if you have a service that can be conducted or performed remotely, then you can join as a service-based business. So let's suppose you are a counselor,
Right.
and you host sessions remotely anywhere in the world, then your service would qualify you for space. If you have a service that can only be provided within local, so say you're a nail tech
Right.
in Atlanta, so of course you aren't traveling all over the world doing. I mean, hopefully if you're great, but
Yeah.
typically
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
in your region or be local. So then you wouldn't qualify because it would be limited to Atlanta or wherever you are. So then, yes, service-based if you can conduct your business digitally remotely. And a lot of people who have services, they also, and I encourage them to have a digital product. So a lot of the
Absolutely.
books or e-courses and things like that. So even though you could be a nail tech that only services Atlanta, you may have a ebook or a product of like how to do nails, that you're teaching people, then you could still join because that product could be disseminated nationwide.
Absolutely. And speaking about like digital products and ebooks and all the stuff like that and courses, one of the features that I really found a lot of value in with the Black Virtual Mall was the movie theater, right? That was very cool. And I loved how, you use it as like a free resource where you actually provided value. You gave away access to like, digital marketing, Facebook ads and stuff like that. Why was that important for you to give that away and use that to, showcase, like to help people in that sense?
Right. So I provide courses that I often give away for free because I know that we really kind of have focused on the concept of group economics
Right.
for the last few years. And I've coined the term group infonomics because
Mm,
I really believe that if we focus simply on circulating the dollar, it's a very short-term solution because our businesses are struggling not simply only because of capital, but because we are not keeping them open. So again, 80% of Black-owned businesses close within 18 months. So you have people who have made it to actually create a business, start a business, and be in business, and then close their doors because they lack the information to keep their businesses open. And that to me is the most valuable asset because I can give you $1 million, but
yeah.
if you're not educated on how to utilize that as an asset, right? And to grow that money, you're going to be out of money soon. So I really want to focus on tools that will keep your doors open, tools that will help your business to grow, tools that will help you to be a better merchant, a better business owner. And we would love to, we glorify the concept of generational wealth.
Right.
My theory that one, the primary reason why we don't have this generational wealth is because generational wealth is really passing down a business or the assets to your heirs. Well,
Right.
for us, 95% of Black-owned businesses are sole proprietorships,
Mm,
which means we are the owner operator of our business. And for the most part, all of that knowledge about running the business, it rests with us as the one person. And so if we're not teaching our systems, and better yet, actually itemizing, detailing, and cataloging those systems in manuals and training manuals and writing them down, unfortunately, when we die, our businesses die with us. So if you have grandma and grandma never wrote the recipe down,
yeah.
the recipe dies with grandma. So if
Can't
grandma's
duplicate it.
us these amazing cakes and pies and she never wrote the recipes down, that business dies with grandma. And so that's how a lot of our businesses are run. Not to mention that for the most part, we are the business, meaning we're the face of the business. So a lot of our businesses, because we're so personal and charismatic, we are the face and the person. So again, when we die, the business dies with us. So in my opinion, if we can get the information aspect down, our businesses will have a higher survivability rate, which will then be able to be a system that is passed on. If you look at all of the wealthy families, that business, so if you look at the names like, say, Hilton, that
Yeah.
company has been there for decades with that family. So it's not just giving the kids the money, it was giving them the information or creating a business that runs literally on automation, or runs itself so that the kids can still reap the benefits and then go on to do their own ventures as well. So I'm a big proponent of automation and systems, and also recognizing that this is how you're going to continue not just your legacy in terms of your dream, but your legacy of opportunity that you give to your children to grow and be great.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's an amazing answer. That's an amazing answer. Thank you so much. You
Yeah.
know, and speaking of,
So it's important to you said why. So for anyone who doesn't know, in the Black Virtual Mall, we have two very unique components that have never been done. We have a movie theater, and we also have a food court that also delivers food. And so the movie theater is for free content, whether it's entertaining content, creative content. But what I am doing very, very differently is not only am I providing free courses and content and educational information, but you can't advertise in the Black Virtual Mall, not in the traditional sense that you're used to advertising. So there are no annoying pop-up banners. There's not a lot of sponsorship splattered all across the graphics or the user interface. The only way to advertise is to infotize. And
mm,
so the example that I often use is to say, let's suppose someone has Jackson's Tax Services and she says, hey, sis, I want to run an ad for Jackson's Tax Services. Well, she can't do that because I don't want the users to come on and then,
right,
oh, Jackson's Tax Services, just in your face and something
absolutely.
or you want, right? So that ruins the customer journey, in my opinion. But what she can do is she can provide a 5 to whatever length video
Mm,
that teaches our users something about, say, her industry. So it could be the 5 tax no-nos to avoid as a new business owner. Okay. She provides that video. And then the user who now came to the mall, came to the movie theater, is looking for content, sees that content, and he or she is only going to click it because they're genuinely interested in learning about the 5 no-nos of taxes. And so once they click it, if Ms. Jackson does a great job of, teaching, and she gets you to know you, like you, trust her, know her, like her, and trust her, then the user will be more inclined to want to explore Miss Jackson's business more. Now, in that opportunity in the video, Miss Jackson is free to brand out. She can put Miss Jackson's taxes all along her banner. She can do a third with her name on the bottom. She can tell you how to locate her and everything. But as long as she just focus on more info, less advertisement, you know what I mean? So more of
absolutely,
the
absolutely. Providing
right,
value.
providing the value, then she's able to be placed in the mall for free. There is no charge for that. So even if Ms. Jackson is successful and say she makes $10,000 off of that placement, that money is 100% hers. So that is a different way of curating content, and also I think giving a better customer experience. And I think it increases also the conversion because the only person who's going to click that video is genuinely interested. So she does a good job. Her conversion will be far greater than the pop-ups that are just annoying you all day, right? So that's a differentiator that I'm doing in the mall as well. And besides the food courts, that if you go there, you can click the food court, you can see the city that they're located in, and then
Yeah,
you just utilize Uber Eats or Grubhub or any other method that you're already used to, so you don't have to download anything different. You just
yeah,
click,
absolutely.
have the door is normal.
Man, that's dope, man. That's dope, man. So let me ask you a question. So like, if I have a powerful clip, like for example, this podcast, if I was able to take this content that we're creating right now and make it, provide value, I would have the opportunity to maybe be featured in the movie theater.
Yes,
Oh wow.
definitely.
Oh
Yeah,
man. Okay.
that's, and so you just say, hey, this is the content, this is the subject matter,
Okay.
and give a small little description, and that's it. And you're able to, yeah. So then if you have, so now you could procure fans who maybe went to the mall, grabbed a bite to eat,
Absolutely.
shopping, want to watch a movie, want to watch something entertaining. And so, yeah, and I, of course, provide the free courses that drive people. So I'm really wanting to establish that culture that the movie theater is definitely a resource center,
Wow.
as you said as well, for you to get free information. And I'm seeing the results. I just had a Zoom meeting, a business strategy session, and 2 of the people that were in the strategy session actually used their time to speak to say thank you because there was an SEO course that I provided in there for
Yeah,
free. And they said their numbers just skyrocketed after watching that free SEO course. So there's great content that really is helpful. Right now, there's information in there about trademark, patenting. These are videos, trademark, copyright, patenting, starting a brand new business, starting a fragrance business, marketing with Marty Woodard, Chris Classic of Savoir Faire. He's the one who gave us the content about starting your fragrance line. There is getting
did
into
you say you had
research.
Marty in there?
Yeah, Marty Woodard has
I
a
gotta
whole
check. That's my guy.
in there. So there's a lot of content in there. Yeah.
That's a lot of value. And I don't think, a lot of people, they don't really realize that, the difference between them, elevating their business as well as their mind is really just access to resources and most importantly, access to information. And you're actually giving the information away for free. That's amazing. That's a lot of value.
Yeah. And it saves us a tremendous amount of time, especially for us. The vast majority of us are first time entrepreneurs in terms of in our family. And
Right.
so just don't have that hereditary knowledge in the business realm. Most of us come from families that have focused on getting a good job.
Absolutely. A
Um,
job,
and
hustling.
the focus has been on how to be a great employee, making sure that you are standing out, you're getting a promotion, a solid job, something with benefits. That's really what you've been, and then of course, education has been
Absolutely.
the greatest, but not really watching someone. We've had, a lot of hustlers, but we
Right.
watching really start a business structured and run that business operationally from start to finish and be behind the scenes and really see it go. A lot of us are just not privy to that. And even if we were, let's suppose my grandfather, who did own a breakfast cafe, who did own motels and liquor stores and, quite a few businesses, even with that, a lot of the information he has is solid, but a lot of it would also be antiquated in this new world. So being in the forefront of e-commerce, we don't have access to a lot of that information. So one of the things that I pride myself on is providing solid, doable, quickly, that you can apply. So the courses are typically no more than an hour and a half long, but they have really quick solutions. And I provide them at the lowest cost that you'll typically find anyone providing this sort of course for. A lot of the courses that I sell typically run from, say, 100, even 199, and I'm selling
Not at all.
999 to like the highest thing I have is like 44, but that's actually like 25 videos. That's like, a couple of hours. It's a large course on affiliates. But yeah, most of them have an average price point of $19.99.
That's not bad at all. And and speaking about just information, right? As an entrepreneur, and just as a human being, period, man, like, sometimes we have to unlearn, sometimes we have to relearn things. Have you ever had to have any like paradigm shifts or any like shifts of your mindset on your journey?
Well, I would say the greatest shifts was one, learning to stop telling myself no before someone else did.
Mm,
That was huge.
that's a
And
bar.
that was really important. Um, and so we often just tell ourselves, no, they're not going to do it. They're not going to let me in. This won't happen.
It's
And I
easier to
said,
it's easier to like let yourself down first before they do it in your mind.
right. And I did that when I applied for Berkeley, for UC Berkeley. I
Mm,
transfer student and I was transferring with a 3.9, and I applied, but I said no. I was an older student. I was 31 at the time, with two kids and married, and I just didn't see myself as a Berkeley student, that would against all of these extraordinary freshmen. And so I applied because it was free, to be honest with you. And I said, no, they're not. They're not. So when they sent communications about housing and scholarship money and aid. I didn't apply for anything. And then I got the letter and Berkeley said yes. And I was, wait, what? So I couldn't attend because I didn't have anything set up, because I told myself no before they ever got a chance to tell me no. And as of that day, I was like, I'm never doing that again. In fact, if you tell me no, you're gonna have to tell me no 4, 5, 6 times. Like I'm gonna need somebody else to come tell me no and somebody else to tell me no. So I just stopped. No, it's not, it's like, no, I'm gonna try to keep going until I can get a yes. So that definitely I'm involved in that. One of the other things that I'm recently having to unlearn, and I think a lot of people deal with, is imposter syndrome and how it can cause to overcompensate.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, if you even look at the video called How to Sell to the Negro, one of the things they said was never discount the Negro. He doesn't want your charity, right? He doesn't want you to offer him a discount, because at that time, the Negro was trying to prove himself to the store, right? To say, I belong here. I have just as much as they have, so he didn't want charity or discounts. And we do that in business too, especially women. We won't really negotiate down a lot of times, depending on who we're dealing with, because we want to be seen as serious business owners. So I had a situation where I was going to create this platform for the mall. And I told them, I said, hey, I don't want to do a brand new one. Can we just reface what I have already? I've spent a considerable amount of money. Well, this company's never done it. I'm their first permanent resident. I'm teaching them how to use it. They've never done anything like what I provided, what I'm doing. Right. So their initial answer was like, well, no, we have to do a whole new thing. We don't, that's not what we do. And I took that no, even though I'm against the no's, but I was just like, they were like, no, we're, the cost. And so I was just like, okay, I'm not going to price haggle. And then I talked to someone who kind of put a battery in my back unexpectedly, was a white man. And after I spoke to him, it kind of like that light bulb went off again. Like, what am I doing? I went back and I said, no. This is what I need. This is what we're going to do. And they said, oh, okay, well, yes. And then I started asking for all kinds of crazy demands. I was like, well, hell, while I'm at it, let me go. And so I was like, oh, when I need this too. And the lease, you want me to pay a year in advance? No, I'm paying month to month. So it was, and then they came back and said, okay, we can't do month to month, we can do quarterly. But my point is, I had to say, whoa, let me get past that part as well. And go in and negotiate, and knowing your worth, or, establishing my business is just as valuable as anybody else's, and I'm going to price haggle. I'm going to negotiate with them. Absolutely. So those are things that I have had to unlearn.
Absolutely. And that's a powerful things to unlearn and relearn. And you said something that you had to ask, right? And they said, okay, yeah, we'll do that. How important as a business owner is it to just ask? Like you said earlier, it's like you told yourself no before anybody else can tell yourself no. So we do this in our minds where we try to, let ourselves down easy. But how important is it to get over that barrier and just ask?
Well, for me, it was a difference of $22,000.
Yeah. That's a lot of money though.
Right. It was the difference of $22,000. Sometimes it may not be monetary. It could be a perk or an added feature or something more that you need, which can save you considerable time or an addition. And the person how the conversation came about, I utilize an app for my digital services. And just on a whim, I thought that it was an issue with the app. It wasn't. So the guy actually got me on the phone. It was like 4 a.m. He's from New Zealand, and was like, hey, if you're up, it's a little easier for me to just explain it. So I was like, okay, sure, I'm up. So he calls and we're talking, and we find out that the issue wasn't with him. It was with Shopify. And so he asked me, how did I enjoy using his service? And I was, say, hey, I love it. I have used another app for this. And he says, oh, what did you need that for? And so we're just kind of getting into the details of that. And he says, well, you could have just asked us. We could have added the feature. What? He
I
was
had to
like,
ask.
could have just wrote. I was like, okay, first of all, full transparency. As a Black woman in business, right, relatively kind of new and coming from our background, our mindset is probably not going to say, let me go to this software company and, hey, I need this feature. Can you implement that? Like, it's just, it's not going to be second nature.
Yeah.
It's something we would have. Now I'll do it.
Yeah, of course. Experience.
That was not what I would even think to do. And then I wouldn't even think that I wanted to pay the cost, to if he needed to add it on. So he said, I appreciate that. He said, and you would think as a white man, I would instinctively do that. He said, but I didn't either, because I was raised in a household where that would be rude. That would be considered inappropriate. But he said, my best friend who was Asian, his dad was a shark in business. And he said, this man would ask for the most ridiculous things.
Oh my God.
And would get them half of the time. And he said, I watched him, and that's what I learned. And it gave me permission to start asking. And so I was like, wow. So it was a very cool moment, in conversation. And when I got off the phone with him, I got off the phone with the other company, like, no, we need to talk. And so, like I said, put my back, and it's there now. You know what I mean? So for me now I am like, okay, this is what I need. This is what I don't need. This is, so you do need to be aggressive with your vision.
Absolutely.
And it can, on the best end, maybe save you thousands. I mean, some people go and negotiate deals that saves them millions.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, you should definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing is, man, in the Black culture, we're taught to kind of just like settle, accept what's given to us. And in these other cultures, especially wealthy cultures, they say like, you have to be aggressive. You have to ask for what you want. You have to demand it. It kind of seems like people are entitled, but wealth and money comes to the people that demand it, right? That's why you always see these different cultures. They accumulate this high level of wealth, and they seem like they're entitled, but really and truly it's because it's the energy behind it. Like, no, I want this. This is what I want. This is what I'm gonna get. This is what comes to them. But as Black people, we're so easy to just cower it down and be like, I'm just gonna take what they give us, and it's something that's been conditioned over years and years and years. But we have to.
It comes down to that. What is at the root of imposter syndrome is we have been made to feel inadequate, and that we don't belong somewhere, and that we don't have enough, and we are not enough to be in these spaces. And so when we get there, the last thing we want to do is come in with our hand out, because it's like, oh, see, she's not a serious business person. Look at her. She doesn't even have the money. She doesn't. So we would rather make you assume that we are okay than to make you think we're inferior.
Right.
So that's the part that really I feel like grapples us uniquely as African Americans, is that we're coming from a lineage of people who were told, you don't belong, you're inferior, you don't have it, you don't, you can't do it, you don't qualify. So we try to overqualify, and we overcompensate. And this is where you get this concept of like Black excellence. Like, we have to go above and beyond just to be normal. Or even the concept of a Black person saying, I have to work 2, 3, 4, 5 times as hard. I have to be 2, 3, 4 times better just to be average. And so we come in with that idea. So the last thing we want to do is come in like, well, I don't have enough, but we're so sometimes happy to be there.
Just happy to be in the room. Yeah.
We're just happy to be there. So the last thing, so when they come around saying, okay, do you have yours? We don't want to be like, do you accept payments, or, you know what I mean? We're more so like, yeah, I got it, and not understanding that, like you said, those that are wealthy, they actually spend far less a lot of times than we do.
Yeah.
People
They're
don't even,
asking for the discounts. They're asking for the
they're
write-offs.
asking, right, as a lot of times they're not even paying to do a lot of the things that we assume they're paying to do. And so they have understood their worth, and they're going to make sure that you understand it. And the one thing we've learned about worth is that if you don't determine it, someone will discount your worth every single time.
Wow. That's a mouthful. Definitely, definitely, man. And one of the last questions I want to ask you, I like to ask all my guests this question when they come on this show: is their definition of success? Success varies depending on where you are in life. It could be monetary, it could be, spiritual, it could just be simply being happy. What is your definition of success?
Well, success is, to me, achieving what you absolutely thought you couldn't.
Yes.
But it's also making the effort to do it. Okay. So for me, I'm proud of people who even try to do what they thought they couldn't do.
Right.
That to me is already one form of success. And then if you're able to create goals for yourself, regardless of what those goals are, and you accomplish those goals, that's success to me.
Absolutely.
Right. So there's some people who have a goal. I remember when I started my very, very first hustle, my goal was I just needed an extra $200 a month.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, if I can just sell these hair oils and just get like, that would have been my cell phone bill, like my gas, it was just like just $200 a month. And, you have to be pretty broke where $200 is going to make a huge significance or change in your life. Pretty much where I was. And then I made $1,000 a month in that business, and I was just blown away. I was just like, oh my God, I'm making $1,000 a month, and 200. And then I remember thinking around that time for my real business that I was, doing all the hustling and everything for, that $6,000 a month. I was like, if I could just make $6,000 a month, create a place I want to be in, be happy to go to work there every day, that would be fantastic. And then I looked at the numbers by adding another component, it would have been 11,000. And so at that time, it was like 11, like that would 11,000 a month. Like at that time, I was making $950 every 2 weeks. So $11,000 a month was like, that was crazy money. And then when you do that in a day, when you do that in 2 minutes, it greatly, changes. But so for me, in my opinion, I'm already successful because I have already nailed everything that was in my wildest dreams several times over. So everything after this, is just a blessing beyond even my wildest comprehension. And so it gives me the room to not feel as pressured either. Like I've gotten to this point, not to say that you're sedentary, like, oh, okay, I made it, I'm good. I do see the potential, but I'm not sitting here like, oh, I gotta get to this. And then, okay, well, I made that. Well, I gotta get to this. And I gotta get to this. I'm not, I have a cap on what, I would be comfortable with. I'm like, okay, I'm good. If I'm at $40,000 a month, like, you know what I mean? What is to talk about? Right? What is there to discuss? And so anything after that is way more than I could ever have even thought of. And what that does is that gives me permission to experiment. It gives me permission to, because a lot of our businesses as Black people, they're started out of absolute necessity. They're started because we need money.
Yes.
They're started like a lot of these businesses that we've seen over time that have changed humanity. Those people just had a vision of something that was huge, and they didn't need to pay the rent. They could just be creative. They could just be innovative, and they had time. They had years, and to just really cultivate something. Whereas for us, it's really like, yo, this business got to start paying next month.
Right now.
So we don't get time to really cultivate because it's a necessity driven thing. So we don't get to put our best creative foot forward because it's like, this needs to make me money. And I'm at the place now where when you do put a cap on what you're doing and you say, okay, wow, I've made way more. Well, I'm at the place where I can start to relax, and now I can start to conceive of something like the Black Virtual Mall. I can say I'm probably going to lose $40,000, but I see a bigger vision. Yeah. See, that's the difference, right? Between, I need to make $200 because that's limiting what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, right? I just need to make this $1,000 right quick. I was able to look at something, see the value in it, but see the larger picture. Yes. I was able to take my time with it. I'm just doing it because I'm gonna work fast like that. This is what I do. Absolutely. But I was able to, I saw this in November and I launched the mall in July. So far, my total spend by the time July came was $70,000. So think about that. Like, how many people are in a position that we know, people right. like us, that can say, okay, here, I'm gonna take $70,000 and I'm gonna take like 8-9 months and see, what this does, and hopefully
if it works. Yeah.
We don't really have that experiential time and experiential money. So for anyone listening, I would encourage you that that's really where you're going to make your biggest impact. Is not on those, what could give me the money? What could give me the money? You can start that way. You can generate your money, but kind of cap yourself. And then at some point in time, allow yourself some wiggle room to say, like, what would I really like if I just had all the time and all the money? Like, what business would I really want to kind of dive into that I can cultivate and I could nurse? Because that's going to more than likely be the thing that impacts your soul the most. That's going to be the thing that probably brings you the most joy. That's going to be your passion project. And usually that's the thing that society responds to the best, because you've actually provided and given something of value. And then the next thing you know, you look up and you're like, wow, that passion thing actually wind up being the greatest profit, earner.
Absolutely.
Out of everything else.
Absolutely. Did you say what your passion product was? Your passion project was?
Well, right now for me, it's this virtual, right? It's the virtual mall, creating these kinds of spaces. It was not the thing that I just immediately said, okay, I'm going to crank this out. This is going to make money. I have a lot of things that I'm passionate about. Don't get me wrong. But for me right now, this was not that kind of turnkey, right? Let me grab this, invest in this, and I'm going to make some money, immediately. That I gave myself time to let it grow. Now, fortunately for me, it made money before the doors were ever open.
Amazing.
Right. So I already made money because I had pre-sales. So I took the deposits and I made money before the doors were even open, and I was collecting rent the next month. But that goes into the fact that I've been doing this for a very long time.
Absolutely.
And I did that with no marketing dollars, but that speaks more to that I have been building up, you know what I mean, for this. So
and the systems and experience you already have in play. I say that speaks to like the systems and the experience that you already have in play.
Right. So kind of like for me, I spoke to someone last night and they were asking me, how quickly, if I create a virtual space, do you think I can get a return? And I said, okay, well, if we're utilizing me as a case study, you have to really understand that I've been on Instagram since 2012. I've been at this since 2013, 2014. In that time frame, I have one account. My account is not, it's been my original account, which means people can see
To
me.
your whole
And
journey. Yeah.
all this time, I've maintained my integrity, regardless if I was selling t-shirts or hair oil, soap. My customers were always serviced. There's no complaints. There was no issues, anything. You know, of course, we all have little things. We
Of
always
course, of course.
there was no. You read my comments, you don't see people like, wait a minute, where's my stuff? Or I didn't get my stuff. Or, so I've
Absolutely.
that. So I've maintained my integrity, but in the forefront of everything that I've done, the wellness of Black people has been at the center. And the focus has been on Black people in business. So I've been on that, beating that drum for over a decade. And everything that I've done has been somewhat centered around solving problems in that arena. So whether it was, okay, let me promote your business on my page for free. How can I help you? Let me create the Akanundrum app, which is a business community that now has a business buddy matcher, because we're all looking for mentors. So let me pair you, kind of like a dating app for entrepreneurs. Let me provide free grants and free resources on my app, right? Whether it was me doing hundreds of free business strategy calls, DMs, consultations in my frequently asked questions section, evaluating websites, evaluating people's business Instagram, then just pouring in for 2 years, just free content. So I've taken classes at UCLA for marketing. Everything that I learned, you know, I'm just giving it for free, right? Researching that I see people ask about all the time, like NDAs and trademarks, and then providing that information for free. But again, always with Black people as the focus. And so because I've been just creating solutions around this issue,
it just makes sense.
When I launched something, right, then I created apps. I said, okay, all of my people don't have apps. So I have an app company, and I did very low cost apps for 300. The most was 1,200. So here's apps for you if you need an app for your business. I'm about to launch my DIY app. So anybody who wants an app, they'll be able to build their own app for 400. So always trying to find solutions. So when you look at, you say, okay, this person has been at the forefront of Black issues in business. She definitely knows what she's talking about because she's been teaching it for free. That landed me in Forbes, right? Oh my God, this person's teaching all this information for free. And then you see me moving into a tech direction. So you're like, she's into apps. She's been talking about virtual events. And so when I put on a virtual mall for Black entrepreneurs, it's, you get what I'm saying? It's a no-brainer. It's not like,
Really.
what are you doing?
Where this come from? It makes sense. Yeah.
It makes perfect. It's the buildup. It's like, that makes perfect sense.
You can follow your whole track record to this moment in time.
So it just flows, because all of my steps are logical. All of my steps have always been solve. So, okay, what's the problem? What's the problem? And just trying to add that value. So my case study is going to be very different. If that's your wheelhouse and that's what you've been doing and you already have a tribe, you know, it's going to be very easy. But if you just try to jump out and say you've
make some
been
money real quick,
holistic gardening all your life, and then you're like, I'm opening a Black virtual mall, it's going to be like, okay, wait, when did you get into virtual reality? Right. So that's that right there, I would say, is definitely, you know, one of the differences. And I always encourage people to stay in your lane. Like, even though I'm a serial entrepreneur and I would find different ways to make money, they were still in my lane. So when I did my hair product, right, I have locks. It was called lock therapy. Okay. So no, I'm not a beauty guru or anything, but it makes sense. Okay. When I did t-shirts, they were Black messaging, confidence messaging, unique messaging for Black people. So it's t-shirts, but see, it's still my messaging, and a lot of times quotes that I had said.
Absolutely.
So when I developed my app, the first one, and then I developed my own app when I decided to do apps for Black-owned businesses. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not, like, you don't see me just running up selling face masks out of the blue. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't, not that kind of a chasing, but just I would say sticking as close to your core of who you are, your brand, and then finding opportunities.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, this was an amazing conversation. I feel like you provided a lot of value, answered a lot of questions. And, it was an honor and a privilege to speak with you. And, I just want to say thank you so much for being my special guest for episode 60. This is the Fly on the Wall show. And, I try to bring on, these different high level entrepreneurs and creatives who's providing a lot of value out there. Oftentimes, we as people, maybe Black people, whatever it is, entrepreneurs, creatives, one of the questions that we get asked a lot is, like, what's your definition of success? We don't really know. Sometimes maybe we don't know, maybe, maybe, our family, we don't know somebody that's successful. Maybe we don't know what it looks like. We don't know what it feels like. So I try to get these high level entrepreneurs on the show to provide some value, give some game. So maybe, we can apply it to our lives and see what you did. Maybe we can do it too. Results may vary, but, we can't say that, we don't have access to this information. So I just want to say thank you so much for being my special guest. It was an honor, and I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, have a good day, and thank you so much.
Okay. Good night.